In honor of the live-action Netflix premiere of the new Avatar: The Last Airbender, I wanted to try playing some Baldur's Gate 3 in honor mode, where today's mission will be to
fight for your honor.
No, today we'll be going and recreating our favorite Last Airbender, Avatar AANG, but in BG3.
There's no honor for me without the Avatar.
We'll be using this Avatar AANG's tattoo edit from Coven Elf on the Nexus mod website to achieve the proper Airbender tattoo look, but otherwise this is just plain vanilla, and we're going to be attempting to make our AANG within the spirit of the show, but translated into the world of Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D. So, while technically AANG is a human with bending powers, I think we're going to make him a halfling for our playthrough, and with that we get a couple of unique features appropriate to our protagonist, being that AANG is both lucky and brave, but most importantly, he is a Lightfoot.
Somebody's a little light on his feet.
Toph doesn't call him Twinkle Toes for nothing, and now we've got the feature to match. It gives us naturally stealthy, which is advantage on stealth checks, because AANG also does his share of sneaking around and evading the Fire Nation too.
What are you doing here, Twinkle Toes?
Of course, AANG is a monk, and as the Avatar, we'll definitely be picking the Way of the Four Elements subclass for him at level 3. But let's take a step back. In order to play this properly, we're gonna have to follow a few rules. Number 1, we're a monk and the Avatar, so of course Way of the Four Elements monk. But AANG cares about helping others and maintaining the balance of the world, so all of our choices in game must be roleplayed as a good aligned approach. AANG doesn't believe in murder either and refuses to kill. This is kind of an important philosophy to him as a monk, and therefore we can't kill anyone. There's a toggle to do non-lethal damage, but it only works if you're using a melee attack. Luckily for AANG, the primary way the monk class fights is by punching in melee, so hopefully it won't be too hard to keep our vow on this one. The exception to that is, of course, constructs and the undead don't count, but I think we'll be fine morally in this context. And finally, rule number 4, AANG is a vegetarian.
Thanks, but I don't eat meat.
So our own roleplay mini challenge here is to only use camp supplies when resting that fit the vegetarian lifestyle. That means no meats. However, I think booze and cheese is okay. I think those are, aren't monks famous for their brewery and cheese making skills? At least in the Western European tradition of monks, which is more D&D style than Avatar's Eastern tradition. But, feel free to start an argument in the comments and drive this video's engagement. Cheers. This might actually end up being the hardest part of the challenge, considering that in hardcore mode you have to have double the camp supplies and things might be a little bit harder to come by. So we're going to actually have to keep our eye out on this, especially because the camp supplies packs, which provide 40 supplies, say they contain dried meats in them. So for really following the rules really strictly and not assuming that we're sharing with our party members, this does kind of add a bit of a wrinkle to our otherwise easy resting scenario. With our rules now established, let's go ahead and pick Acolyte for our background. AANG is an air nomad, so maybe Outlander would be a good fit, but the whole service and life of a temple, as he leads the cultural preservation of his people through the air acolytes later in life, I felt this was appropriate. So for our stats, we can move some numbers around. So we have +3 in dexterity as our primary stat for attacking, and a +3 modifier in wisdom, which is fitting for the monk class and also helps us avoid attacks thanks to monk's unarmored defense feature, appropriate for an evasive and wise air nomad master. Otherwise, a +2 constitution is nice to help survive 100 years trapped in ice, and we're decently strong and charismatic, more than we are intelligent. So that's our dump stat.
Math test? Oh no! I forgot all about the math test!
Our skill proficiencies will take acrobatics and stealth, because we're more nimble than beefy, and I consider taking history, but all we know is stuff from over 100 years ago, and everything in between we're kind of clueless on, so it's kind of a 50-50 shot there, but I think we'll get more out of embracing our sneakiness to move as silently as the wind. Now we just need to edit our appearance, and of course we're going bald by choice and getting our custom modded airbender tattoo, and pick a nice blue here, few more adjustments, and voila, Avatar AANG. Or at least a decent approximation for the purposes of this game. But that's all the time I've got for today in order to get this video out in time for the premiere. So if you want to see the Avatar in action, be sure to subscribe. This is a brand new channel, so if you enjoy the video, please leave a like, and there's lots more still to come.
I thought it was my honor that I wanted, but really, I was just trying to please you.
I'll post a link to part 2 as soon as it's up, and thanks very much for watching.